Building on the corporate planning exercise, our challenge from a communication perspective as managers and leaders is to share those plans, telling the stories of our organizations, creating buy-in from employees, and moving us closer to achieving our vision. Typically, there are communication and marketing strategies created alongside these big corporate strategic plans, and it's through the communication plan that information is shared with and between stakeholders in a relevant and measured way. But a communication plan doesn't need to be the big corporate strategy to be strategic. A strategic communication plan creates focus and establishes alignment about a problem or opportunity. It identifies priorities, allocates resources, ensures accountability and responsibility, and follows organizational practices, the very same elements that are involved in the corporate planning. Communication planning means asking a lot of questions and finding the answers to them. The first is to identify what the problem or opportunity is that needs to be addressed. What is the expected outcome, and whose expectations are they? Who are you going to need to communicate with? These groups may be referred to as stakeholders, audiences, or publics. Some may be more important than others. What messages are you going to want them to receive? What are the best ways to send them? Remember our discussion recently about the different channels of communication? What's the cost? You need to ensure that you have the required resources to allocate to the task at hand. And finally, how do you know that you've been successful? Apart from all the high fives around the office, of course. So let's bring this piece into focus. Let's stop for a minute and chat about who does communication in your organization. Whose role is it to deliver on a communication strategy? That's simple. Everyone. You may not be the person who puts together the annual communication plan for your organization, but you do need to be familiar with its components, as you're guaranteed, as healthcare leaders, to be responsible for delivering some strategic communications within your organization. So what is the structure of a strategic communication plan? There are some fairly standard components to planning terminology. The first is the background or context of the issue or problem. It's followed by a goals or outcomes component. Then comes research and analysis, and then the tactical plan for delivery. Finally, we wrap up with evaluation and control. So to start, let's think about what's your current state. Where is it that your organization is at with the issue? What research already exists that you'll be able to bring into the analysis phase? Don't forget to look for both internal and external sources. What are the pertinent facts or data? What story does that data tell you? What exactly is the problem or opportunity? This is where you need to be very clear. Ask a lot of questions to really be able to get down to identify and to define the issue, to explain it free of jargon. What communications have happened to date about this problem or opportunity? And where have those discussions happened? At what levels? What was the content? What were the outcomes of those discussions? What will this backstory mean for your plan going forward? Has there been any media coverage about the problem or issue? When was it? What was the tone or angle? Is this local coverage about your organization, or is it broader provincial maybe, or national coverage involving others? Is there anything to learn about what's happened in other places with similar situations? Let Google be your friend. How does the problem or opportunity contribute to your organization's mission, vision, and organizational priorities? If it doesn't contribute in any way, you may need to reevaluate whether a communication strategy is even appropriate. Finally, are there any other pertinent facts that you need to be aware of? Has your organization tried to implement something similar to this in the past? How did it go? The background section is one where you really need to unearth a lot of information. You can do this through many means, such as face-to-face discussions with colleagues, team, and other meetings, combing through corporate records and information, trusting your own feelings, thoughts, and actions. The more information that you can collect in the background or context stage, the better your plan will be and the greater chance you'll have for success. The next step is to work through an environmental analysis. This is where you'll use the information you've collected in the context and background section to figure out what it will mean for your organization. You'll want to focus in on vulnerabilities and opportunities. So work through a SWOT analysis. Figure out the internal strengths and weaknesses and the external opportunities and threats involved. This is often best done with a group of people and a whiteboard or maybe even a bunch of sticky notes. Once you've done your SWOT analysis, your goal is to understand the opportunities and risks. What will you be able to realistically achieve? And what must you avoid? Write up your environmental analysis so that it builds upon the context and background of your presentation or plan. Don't forget to reflect on the organizational planning processes and to clarify any terminology you'll use. I'm going to need to understand it as part of your assignment, but more importantly, in the real world, others in your organization who may not have the same level of understanding as you will also need to have a clear picture of what you're trying to convey. All right, now just as a reminder, the environmental analysis portion of your communications plan is not a laundry list of items from your SWOT analysis. You need to take them one step further and come up with some verbiage in terms of what it means. Remember, you want to focus on areas where you have opportunities and to avoid other things that may cause threats to your organization. Okay, now let's move into setting goals and objectives. The first thing you want to consider is what you want to achieve overall. Then think about why you're communicating. Be careful here because a lot of people confuse this with how they're communicating. That's a common planning mistake. Think about what actions you want the audience to take. We're going to get into persuasion in week 7, and that's going to help you when it comes to refining your final communications plan for the final assignment. To be successful, use SMART goal setting. Some organizations use it as part of their human resource planning process. You'll need to create SMART goals as part of assignment number 2. SMART goals are specific. Make sure that your objectives are focused and apply to a clear aim. They're also measurable, and this is important when you get to the last part of the planning process and you're outlining metrics to determine the success of your plan. With a good plan, you'll know exactly how well you did. SMART goals are achievable, and that's a really key point. Don't aim for pie-in-the-sky objectives. Be realistic about what it is that you will take on to achieve your goals. That's why it's important that this process comes after your background and context component and environmental analysis. Be relevant. Make sure that your objectives make sense and are on target. And finally, SMART goals are timely. There's a deadline attached to them.